Jake Martinez wiped the sweat from his forehead as he finished checking the last fuel line on the Earth's dawn. The ship had been his home for 3 years now, carrying him across the galaxy as part of Earth's first deep space exploration mission. At 28, Jake was one of the youngest engineers to ever serve on such an important vessel, but his skill with alien technology had earned him respect among the crew. The ship was currently docked at Nexus Prime, a massive space station. It served as neutral ground between Earth and dozens of alien civilizations. The station was huge, stretching for miles in every direction, with different sections designed for different species. Jake had been here many times before, but the sight of so many different alien races walking together still amazed him. "Martinez, you're free to go," called Captain Brown from the bridge. "We'll be here for 3 days while the diplomats do their thing. Try not to get into any trouble." Jake grinned and grabbed his jacket. He had been looking forward to exploring the station's markets and maybe trying some of the exotic food from the Outer Rim worlds. As he walked through the docking bay, he noticed several Zephyrian ships had arrived. The Zephyrians were tall, humanoid aliens with pale blue skin and silver hair. They were known throughout the galaxy for their advanced technology and their powerful military. The station's main corridor was busy with travelers from dozens of worlds. Jake made his way toward the cultural exchange section, where different species shared their art, music, and knowledge. He had heard that the Zephyrians had set up a new exhibit about their technology, and as an engineer, he was curious to see what they had brought. The Zephyrian exhibit was impressive. Holographic displays showed their advanced ships and weapons, while interactive panels explained their energy systems and manufacturing techniques. Jake spent an hour studying their fusion reactors, amazed by how much more efficient they were than human designs. "You seem very interested in our technology," said a voice behind him. Jake turned around and felt his breath catch in his throat. Standing before him was the most beautiful woman he had ever seen. She was clearly Zephyrian, with the characteristic pale blue skin and silver hair, but there was something different about her. Her eyes were a brilliant green color that seemed to shine with intelligence and curiosity. She wore a simple white dress that looked elegant and practical at the same time. "I'm sorry," Jake said, suddenly feeling nervous. "I'm an engineer, so I find this stuff fascinating. I hope I'm not bothering anyone." The woman smiled, and Jake felt his heart skip a beat. "Not at all. I'm Lyra. I'm actually here studying human technology. Your species has some very interesting approaches to problem solving." "I'm Jake," he said, extending his hand. "Jake Martinez." Lyra looked at his hand for a moment, then reached out and shook it. Her skin was warm and soft, and Jake felt a strange tingling sensation when they touched. "Would you like to see more of the exhibit?" Lyra asked. "I could explain some of the more complex systems if you're interested." Jake nodded eagerly. For the next 2 hours, Lyra showed him around the exhibit, explaining the science behind their advanced technology. She was clearly brilliant, understanding concepts that even Jake found challenging. But more than that, she seemed genuinely excited to share her knowledge with him. "Your fusion reactors are incredible," Jake said as they stood in front of a detailed hologram of a Zephyrian power core. "We're still using primitive fusion technology compared to this." "But your designs are so creative," Lyra replied. "Zephyrian technology is efficient, but it's also very rigid. We follow the same patterns that have worked for thousands of years. Human technology is different. You find new ways to solve problems that we would never think of." Jake felt a warm glow at the compliment. "Would you like to see some human technology? I could show you around our ship if you're interested." Lyra's eyes lit up. "Really, I would love that, but—" She hesitated, looking around nervously. "I'm not sure if I'm allowed. There are rules about contact between our species." "What kind of rules?" Jake asked. "The Zephyrian government is very careful about relationships with other species," Lyra explained. "They want to maintain our cultural purity and military strength. Personal relationships with aliens are discouraged." Jake felt disappointed, but he understood. Every species had their own customs and laws. "Well, maybe we could meet here in the neutral sections of the station. I'd love to learn more about your culture." Lyra smiled again, and Jake felt that same flutter in his chest. I would like that very much. They agreed to meet the next day at a small cafe in the station's neutral zone. Jake could hardly sleep that night, thinking about Lyra and their conversation. He had never met anyone like her before. She was intelligent, beautiful, and genuinely interested in learning about humans. The next morning, Jake arrived at the cafe early and waited nervously. When Lyra appeared, she was wearing a simple blue dress that matched her skin tone perfectly. She looked around carefully before sitting down across from him. I was worried you might not come, Jake said. I almost didn't, Lyra admitted. If anyone from my ship saw me here with you, there could be trouble, but I wanted to see you again. They ordered drinks and talked for hours. Jake learned that Lyra was the daughter of a high-ranking Zephyrian military officer, and that she had been sent to study human culture as part of a diplomatic exchange program. She was fascinated by human art, music, and literature, but especially by human ingenuity and creativity. Your species never gives up, she said. Even when faced with impossible odds, humans find a way to succeed. It's something we admire about you. What's your society like? Jake asked. Lyra's expression grew more serious. We value strength, honor, and discipline above all else. Every Zephyrian is expected to serve in the military for at least 10 years. We have a saying, the strong protect the weak, and the weak serve the strong. It has kept our civilization stable for thousands of years. That sounds very different from human society, Jake said. It is, Lyra agreed. But sometimes I wonder if we're too rigid. We've become so focused on maintaining our traditions that we've stopped growing and learning. Over the next 2 days, Jake and Lyra met several more times. Each meeting deepened their connection. Jake found himself falling for this amazing alien woman who saw the world so differently than he did. And from the way Lyra looked at him, he suspected she might be feeling the same way. On their last evening before the Earth's dawn was scheduled to depart, they met at an observation deck that looked out at the stars. The view was breathtaking, with hundreds of ships from different worlds moving through space like glowing insects. I have to leave tomorrow, Jake said quietly. I know, Lyra replied. I wish things were different. Maybe they could be, Jake said, turning to face her. Maybe we could find a way to make this work. Lyra looked at him with those brilliant green eyes. My father would never approve. He's Supreme Commander Thane Vexkane of the Imperial Fleet. He believes that Zephyrians should only associate with other Zephyrians. But what do you believe? Jake asked. Lyra was quiet for a long moment. Then she reached out and took his hand. I believe that connection between people is more important than the species they belong to. I believe that you and I could learn from each other and make both our worlds better. Jake felt his heart racing. Then let's try. We'll find a way to make this work. Unknown to them, their conversation was being monitored by Zephyrian intelligence agents. Their secret relationship had been discovered, and very soon both Jake and Lyra would face the consequences of their forbidden love. Jake had been back on Earth for 3 weeks when the message arrived. He was working in his small apartment in New Angeles, reviewing technical reports from the Nexus Prime mission, when his communication device chimed with an urgent priority signal. The message was from Captain Brown. Martinez, report to headquarters immediately. We have a situation. Jake's heart sank. He had been trying to focus on his work, but thoughts of Lyra filled his mind every day. He wondered if she was thinking about him too, or if their brief time together had meant less to her than it had to him. When Jake arrived at Earth Defense Command, he found Captain Brown waiting with 2 other officers he didn't recognize. Their faces were serious, and Jake felt a cold knot form in his stomach. Sit down, Martinez, Captain Brown said. We need to talk. Jake sat down, trying to keep his expression neutral. What's this about, sir? It's about your activities at Nexus Prime, said one of the other officers, a woman with short gray hair. Specifically, your relationship with a Zephyrian citizen named Lyra Vexkane. Jake felt the blood drain from his face. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't lie to us, son, Captain Brown said sadly. We have surveillance footage from the station. You and Miss Vexkane met several times in the neutral zones. You were seen holding hands and having intimate conversations. The gray-haired officer leaned forward. Do you have any idea who Lyra Vexkane is? She's the daughter of Supreme Commander Thane Vexkane, one of the most powerful military leaders in the Zephyrian Empire. This could cause a diplomatic crisis. Jake's mind raced. He had known Lyra was from a military family, but he hadn't realized her father was so important. We didn't do anything wrong. We just talked about our cultures and shared some meals. That's not how the Zephyrians see it, the third officer said. They've sent a formal complaint to Earth's diplomatic corps. They consider your actions a violation of their cultural laws. Captain Brown sighed. Jake, you're a good engineer and a good man, but you've put us in a very difficult position. The Zephyrians are demanding that we take action against you. What kind of action? Jake asked before anyone could answer. The communication system activated. A holographic projection appeared in the center of the room, showing a tall Zephyrian in military uniform. Jake recognized him immediately from news reports. This was Supreme Commander Thane Vexkane, Lyra's father. The commander was an imposing figure, standing nearly 7 feet tall with the characteristic pale blue skin and silver hair of his species. His green eyes, so much like Lyra's, were cold and calculating. His uniform was covered with medals and rank insignia that spoke of decades of military service. I am Commander Vexkane, he said, his voice deep and authoritative. I wish to speak with a human called Jake Martinez. Jake stood up, trying to hide his nervousness. I'm Jake Martinez, sir. Commander Vexkane studied him for a long moment. So, you are the human who has been meeting with my daughter. I have read the reports about your conversations. Sir, I meant no disrespect to your daughter or your culture, Jake said. Lyra and I were just sharing knowledge about our respective species. Knowledge, the commander repeated. Yes, I have been studying your species' military history, Martinez. Your tactics are unusual, unconventional, sometimes effective. Jake wasn't sure where this was going. Thank you, sir. I am not giving you a compliment, Commander Vexkane said sharply. I am making an observation. You humans have a strange way of fighting. You do not follow the proper rules of warfare. You adapt and change your strategies in the middle of battle. It is chaotic and unpredictable. That's because we have to be, Jake replied. Humans aren't the strongest or fastest species in the galaxy. We have to use our minds to survive. Commander Vexkane's eyes narrowed. Exactly, and that is why I'm going to make you an offer. Jake felt confused. An offer? You will join the Zephyrian military as a tactical advisor. You will help us understand human military doctrine and teach our officers how to think like humans in combat situations. The Earth officers looked shocked. Captain Brown spoke first. Commander, with respect, Martinez is a human citizen and a member of our exploration corps. We can't just transfer him to your military. You misunderstand, Commander Vexkane said. I am not making a request. I am presenting Martinez with a choice. He can volunteer to serve in our military, or he can be permanently banned from Zephyrian space. That would include Nexus Prime and any other station where my daughter might be stationed. Jake felt his heart stop. You're saying I can never see Lyra again unless I join your army? That is correct. My daughter has duties to our people, and she will continue to serve in various diplomatic and research positions throughout Zephyrian space. If you are banned from our territory, you will never encounter her again. The room was silent for a moment. Jake could hear his own heartbeat in his ears. And if I join your military? Then you will prove your worth to our people. If you succeed, you may earn the right to court my daughter properly. If you fail, you will die in service to the Zephyrian Empire. Captain Brown stood up angrily. Commander, you can't threaten one of our people like this. I am not threatening anyone, Commander Vexkane replied calmly. I am offering Martinez an opportunity to demonstrate the value of human thinking in military situations. Our empire is vast and always faces challenges from hostile species. If human tactics can help us protect our people, then perhaps humans are worthy of joining our society. Jake realized what was happening. This wasn't just about him and Lyra. Commander Vexcane was testing humanity itself. If Jake succeeded, it could open the door for greater cooperation between their species. If he failed, it would confirm Zephyrian suspicions that humans were inferior. What would my duties be? Jake asked. You would be assigned to a combat unit as a tactical advisor. You would study our enemies and develop strategies to defeat them. You would teach our officers to think more flexibly in battle. And you would prove that humans can contribute something valuable to our military. This is insane, Captain Brown said. Martinez, you don't have to do this. Jake looked at his captain, then back at Commander Vexcane. What guarantee do I have that I'll be treated fairly? That I won't just be sent on a suicide mission? You have my word as a Zephyrian officer, Commander Vexcane said. You will be given the same opportunities as any Zephyrian soldier to prove yourself, no more, no less. Jake thought about Lyra, about her brilliant green eyes and her curiosity about human culture. He thought about the way she had looked at him when they talked about the future. He also thought about what this could mean for relations between humans and Zephyrians. I need time to think about this, Jake said. You have 1 day, Commander Vexcane replied. Tomorrow you will give me your answer. If you agree to serve, you will be transported to a Zephyrian training facility where you will undergo the integration process. What's the integration process? Jake asked. You will receive neural implants that will allow you to interface with our technology and communicate directly with our computer systems. The procedure is designed for Zephyrian physiology. It may be painful for humans. The holographic projection flickered off, leaving Jake alone with the Earth officers. Captain Brown put a hand on his shoulder. Jake, you don't have to do this. There are other women in the galaxy. Jake shook his head. It's not just about Lyra, sir. This could be the chance to prove that humans and Zephyrians can work together. If I succeed, it could change everything. And if you fail? Jake looked out the window at the stars. Then at least I'll have tried. That night, Jake called his parents and told them he loved them. He didn't tell them about the choice he was facing, but he wanted to hear their voices. He also sent a message to Lyra through the diplomatic channels, though he wasn't sure if she would receive it. The next morning, Jake reported to headquarters with his decision. Commander Vexcane was waiting for him on the communication screen. I accept your offer, Jake said. I'll join the Zephyrian military. Commander Vexcane nodded. Good. A transport ship will arrive tomorrow to take you to our training facility. Martinez, do not disappoint me. The future of human-Zephyrian relations may depend on your success. As Jake prepared for the most dangerous decision of his life, he wondered if he would ever see Earth again. But when he thought of Lyra, he knew he had made the right choice. Jake woke up screaming. The pain in his head felt like someone had driven hot knives through his skull. He was lying on a medical table in what looked like a Zephyrian hospital room. The walls were smooth and white and strange alien machines beeped and hummed around him. The neural integration is complete, said a voice beside him. Jake turned his head and saw a Zephyrian doctor examining a holographic display. Your brain has accepted the implants. You are fortunate. Many humans do not survive the procedure. Jake tried to sit up, but the room spun around him. How long was I unconscious? 3 days, the doctor replied. The implants needed time to connect with your nervous system. You can now interface with our technology and receive direct data feeds from our computers. As if to prove the doctor's point, Jake suddenly felt a strange sensation in his mind. Information began flowing into his consciousness without him reading or hearing it. He could sense the ship's location, its speed, the number of crew members aboard, and dozens of other details. This is incredible, Jake whispered. I can feel the ship's systems. All Zephyrian soldiers receive these implants, the doctor explained. They allow perfect coordination between our forces and our technology. You will need several days to learn how to control the information flow. Over the next week, Jake learned to use his new abilities. He could access tactical databases, communicate silently with other soldiers, and control Zephyrian weapons and equipment with his thoughts. It was amazing technology, but the constant stream of information was overwhelming. He was assigned to the 7th tactical division aboard the warship Sovereign's Edge. The ship was massive, nearly 2 miles long, with advanced weapon systems and a crew of 3,000 Zephyrian soldiers. Jake had never seen anything like it. Captain Rex Zorn, the division commander, was waiting for Jake when he reported for duty. Zorn was a typical Zephyrian warrior, tall and muscular with numerous battle scars across his blue skin. His silver hair was cut short in military style, and his green eyes held no warmth. "So you are the human," Zorn said, looking Jake up and down. "You do not look like much." "I'm here to help, sir," Jake replied, trying to keep his voice steady. "Help?" Zorn laughed, and several other Zephyrian soldiers joined in. "Human, you are barely larger than a Zephyrian child. Your species has no real military tradition. What could you possibly teach us?" Jake felt his face burn with embarrassment, but he kept quiet. He had expected this kind of reception. However, Zorn continued, "Commander Vex Kane has ordered me to give you a chance. We are currently engaged in a conflict with the hegemony forces in the Outer Rim. They have been attacking our supply convoys and raiding our colonies. Perhaps you can prove that human thinking has some value." Jake spent the next several days studying the tactical situation. The hegemony was a group of aggressive alien species that had banded together to challenge Zephyrian expansion. They had superior numbers and controlled several key star systems that allowed them to strike at Zephyrian forces and then retreat to safety. The Zephyrians had been fighting the hegemony for 6 months using traditional tactics. They would mass their forces and attack hegemony positions directly, trying to overwhelm the enemy with superior firepower and disciplined formations. Sometimes this worked, but often the hegemony would simply retreat and attack somewhere else. The hegemony is winning because they choose when and where to fight, Jake told Captain Zorn during a strategy meeting. They avoid direct confrontation and hit your weak points. Are you suggesting we are cowards like them? Zorn asked angrily. Zephyrian warriors face their enemies in honorable battle. We do not hide and run like scared animals. I'm not talking about cowardice, Jake replied. I'm talking about efficiency. Why waste lives attacking a fortified position when you can attack their supply lines instead? Zorn's eyes narrowed. Explain. Jake activated the holographic display and showed the current battle situation. Look at this hegemony base on Kepler 7. You've been trying to take it for 2 months. They have heavy defenses and can call for reinforcements. But they need supplies from 3 different star systems to keep operating. So instead of attacking the base, we attack their supply convoys. We hit their fuel shipments, their food supplies, their ammunition transports. After a few weeks, they'll have to abandon the base or starve. The other officers in the room muttered among themselves. Several of them looked disgusted at the idea. This is not how Zephyrian warriors fight, said Lieutenant Kane, one of Zorn's subordinates. We face our enemies directly, not skulk in the shadows like thieves. The hegemony doesn't care about your honor, Jake replied. They care about winning, and right now they're winning. Captain Zorn was quiet for a long moment. Your proposal is ... unconventional, but our current tactics are not working. Very well, human. You will have a chance to prove your strategy. I'm giving you command of a small strike force. If your plan succeeds, we will consider your methods. If it fails, you will be transferred to a punishment battalion. Jake knew that being transferred to a punishment battalion was essentially a death sentence. These units were sent on the most dangerous missions with little hope of survival. But he also knew this was his only chance to prove human tactics could work. The strike force consisted of 12 Zephyrian soldiers and 2 small attack ships. Jake spent a week planning the mission, studying hegemony supply routes and identifying the best targets. The soldiers assigned to him were clearly unhappy about following a human, but they followed orders. Their first target was a hegemony fuel convoy traveling through the Andromeda Nebula. The convoy consisted of 3 large tanker ships escorted by 4 fighters. According to traditional Zephyrian tactics, Jake should have attacked the convoy directly with overwhelming force. Instead, Jake had his ships hide in the nebula's gas clouds and wait. When the convoy was halfway through the nebula, He ordered his fighters to attack the escort ships first, using the nebula's interference to mask their approach. The escorts were destroyed before they could send a distress signal. Then, instead of destroying the tanker ships, Jake's forces disabled their engines and communication systems. The tankers were left drifting in space, their fuel cargo intact but unusable to the hegemony. "Why did we not destroy the ships?" asked Sergeant Core, one of Jake's soldiers. "Because now the hegemony has to send ships to rescue the crews and recover the fuel," Jake explained. "That ties up their resources and makes them predictable. We'll hit the rescue convoy when it arrives." The plan worked perfectly. When the hegemony rescue ships arrived, Jake's force was waiting. They destroyed 2 escort ships and disabled the rescue vessel, leaving even more hegemony forces stranded in the nebula. Over the next month, Jake's strike force hit 6 more hegemony supply convoys. They never suffered a single casualty, while the hegemony lost dozens of ships and thousands of tons of supplies. The hegemony base on Kepler 7 was forced to reduce its operations due to fuel shortages. Word of the human success spread throughout the Zephyrian fleet. Captain Zorn, initially skeptical, began to see the value in Jake's tactics. "Your methods are effective," Zorn admitted during a briefing. "But I do not understand how you think of these strategies. They are so different from everything we have learned." "Humans have always had to fight enemies that were bigger and stronger than us," Jake explained. "We learned to use our brains instead of our muscles. We learned that sometimes the best way to win a war is to avoid fighting battles you can't win, and you believe this can work on a larger scale?" "I know it can," Jake replied. "But I'll need to train more soldiers in these methods. And I'll need your support when other officers complain about unconventional tactics." Captain Zorn nodded slowly. "Very well. I will recommend to Commander Vex Kane that you be given authority to establish a training program. Perhaps it is time for the Zephyrian military to learn something new." As Jake prepared to expand his training program, he thought about Lyra. He had not heard from her since arriving on the ship, but he hoped she was proud of what he was accomplishing. He was proving that humans could contribute something valuable to Zephyrian society, and maybe that would be enough to earn her father's respect. But Jake had no idea that an even greater threat was approaching, one that would test everything. He had learned about warfare and require both human and Zephyrian forces to work together like never before. Jake was teaching a group of young Zephyrian officers about human military history when the alarms started screaming. Red lights flashed throughout the training room as the ship's emergency systems activated. Every soldier in the room froze as their neural implants received the same terrifying message. "All units to battle stations. Unknown enemy fleet detected." "This is not a drill." Captain Zorn's voice came through the communication system. "Martinez, report to the bridge immediately." Jake ran through the corridors of the Sovereign's Edge, his heart pounding. In the 6 months since he had started training Zephyrian soldiers, there had been several battles with hegemony forces, but nothing that required a full alert like this. When Jake reached the bridge, he found it in chaos. Officers were shouting. Reports and data streamed across dozens of holographic displays. Captain Zorn stood in the center of it all, his face grim. "What's the situation?" Jake asked. "Look at this," Zorn said, pointing to the main display screen. Jake stared at the image and felt his blood turn cold. Hundreds of ships were approaching their position, but these weren't hegemony vessels. These ships were massive, dark, and shaped like nothing Jake had ever seen before. They moved in perfect formation, their hulls seeming to absorb light rather than reflect it. "Who are they?" Jake asked. "We don't know," Zorn replied. "They appeared without warning 20 minutes ago. Our sensors can barely detect them, and they're not responding to any communication attempts." "Have you contacted Commander Vex Kane?" "He's already on his way with reinforcements, but it will take hours for the main fleet to reach us." Jake studied the enemy formation. There were at least 300 ships, ranging from small fighters to massive battleships larger than anything in the Zephyrian fleet. They moved with an eerie precision that made his skin crawl. "Sir," called Lieutenant came from the sensor station. The enemy fleet is targeting the mining colony on Beta Proxima. They're heading straight for it. How many people are on that colony? Jake asked. 50,000 civilians, Zorn replied. We have to protect them. Jake looked at the tactical display. The Sovereign's Edge was part of a small patrol group with only 12 ships. The enemy fleet outnumbered them 25-1. Captain, we can't fight that many ships, Jake said. We need to evacuate the colony and fall back until reinforcements arrive. Zephyrian warriors do not retreat, Zorn said firmly. We will defend the colony, with 12 ships against 300. That's not bravery, that's suicide. Before Zorn could reply, the enemy fleet reached weapon range of the colony. What happened next would haunt Jake for the rest of his life. The dark. Ships opened fire with weapons that seemed to tear holes in space itself. The colony's shields lasted less than 30 seconds before collapsing. The planetary surface erupted in explosions as the enemy bombardment turned the mining installations into smoking craters. My God, Jake whispered. They're wiping out everything. The enemy attack was perfectly coordinated. Every ship fired at exactly the right time and placed to cause maximum destruction. Within 10 minutes, the entire colony was destroyed. 50,000 people were dead. All ships attack formation, Zorn ordered. We will make them pay for this. The Zephyrian patrol group charged toward the enemy fleet. Jake watched in horror as the dark ships turned their weapons on the approaching Zephyrian vessels. The enemy fire was devastatingly accurate. The first Zephyrian ship exploded before it could even return fire. They're predicting our movements, Jake realized. They know exactly where we're going to be. Impossible, Zorn said. No one can predict battle movements that accurately. But Jake could see the pattern. Every time a Zephyrian ship tried to change course, the enemy was already firing at its new position. It was as if they could see the future. Captain, we have to retreat. Now, Jake urged. Our tactics aren't working against them. Zorn's face was hard as stone. We do not abandon our people. 2 more Zephyrian ships exploded. The enemy fleet hadn't lost a single vessel. Jake's mind raced as he studied the enemy formation. There was something familiar about their coordination, something that reminded him of the computer simulations he had studied back on Earth. They're using artificial intelligence, Jake said suddenly. Those ships are controlled by computers, not living beings. That's how they can coordinate so perfectly. So, what? Zorn asked. How does that help us? AI systems are predictable, Jake explained. They follow patterns and algorithms. If we can figure out their programming, we can beat them. Then figure it out quickly, Zorn said as another Zephyrian ship was destroyed. Jake studied the enemy movements, his enhanced brain processing data at incredible speed thanks to his neural implants. The enemy ships moved in mathematical patterns, their formations based on optimal firing solutions and defensive positioning. I need to talk to the other ship captains, Jake said. We need to try something completely random. Random? AI systems are designed to predict logical behavior. If we do something that makes no tactical sense, their computers won't be able to anticipate it. Zorn hesitated for a moment, then activated the fleet communication system. All ships, this is Captain Zorn, follow the humans' orders exactly. Jake took a deep breath and spoke into the communicator. All ships, break formation. I want every ship to fly in a different direction. Change course randomly every 10 seconds. Don't try to coordinate with each other. Just fly chaotically and fire whenever you have a target? That's insane, said one of the ship captains. We'll be completely disorganized. That's the point, Jake replied. Trust me. The remaining Zephyrian ships broke formation and began flying in seemingly random patterns. The enemy fleet's precise coordination suddenly became a disadvantage. Their AI systems couldn't predict where the Zephyrian ships would go next because the Zephyrians themselves didn't know. For the first time in the battle, enemy shots began missing their targets. The dark ships tried to adjust their firing patterns, but they couldn't adapt fast enough to track targets that were moving randomly. It's working, Zorn said in amazement. We actually hit one of them. the victory was short-lived. The enemy fleet began adapting, their AI systems learning from the new tactics. After a few minutes, they were hitting their targets again. "They're adapting too fast," Jake said. "We need reinforcements now." "Commander Vex Kane's fleet is still 2 hours away," Zorn replied. At that moment, new ships appeared on the sensor display. But these weren't Zephyrian reinforcements. They were human vessels from Earth's defense fleet. "This is Admiral Lisa Carter of the Earthship New York," came a voice over the communication system. "We received your distress signal. What's your status?" Jake felt a surge of hope. "Admiral, this is Jake Martinez. We're fighting an unknown enemy fleet with advanced AI systems. We need immediate assistance." "We see them," Admiral Carter replied. "Those are some big ships. What's your tactical assessment?" Jake quickly explained what he had learned about the enemy AI systems and how random tactics could disrupt their coordination. "Understood," Admiral Carter said. "All human ships implement random evasion patterns. Coordinate with the Zephyrian vessels and let's see if we can confuse these computers." The combined human and Zephyrian fleet began working together, sharing Jake's chaotic tactics. The human ships were smaller and faster than the Zephyrian vessels, making them even harder for the AI systems to track. For an hour, the battle raged across the star system. The enemy fleet was powerful, but their AI systems struggled against the unpredictable tactics of the combined human Zephyrian force. Then something changed. The enemy ships suddenly stopped firing and began retreating. "Where are they going?" Zorn asked. Jake checked the sensor readings and felt his heart sink. "They're regrouping, and there are more of them coming." The main enemy fleet was arriving. Thousands of dark ships emerged from hyperspace, surrounding the human and Zephyrian forces. "This is just the beginning," Jake realized. They were testing us, learning how we fight. Admiral Carter's voice came over the radio, grim and determined. "All ships, prepare for the fight of our lives. Whatever these things are, they're not done with us yet." As Jake watched the massive enemy fleet take position, he thought about Lyra. Was she safe? Were her people prepared for this threat? He also realized something else. The random tactics that had worked against the smaller enemy force wouldn't be enough against this massive fleet. They needed something more. They needed perfect cooperation between humans and Zephyrians. Combining their strengths in ways that had never been tried before, the real battle was just beginning, and the survival of both species might depend on what happened next. "Captain," Jake said to Zorn, "I think it's time to call Commander Vex Kane. We're going to need every ship we can get." "Already done," Zorn replied. "He's bringing the entire Imperial fleet, but I don't know if it will be enough." Jake looked at the enemy formation and felt a cold determination settle in his chest. "Then we better make sure it is." The medical bay on the Sovereign's Edge was quiet except for the soft hum of alien machines keeping Jake alive. His neural implants had been damaged in the last battle, sending waves of pain through his skull every few minutes. But the physical pain was nothing compared to the reports coming in from across the galaxy. The enemy fleet, which intelligence had finally identified as the Void Collective, was attacking both human and Zephyrian worlds simultaneously. Their AI systems had learned from the previous battle and adapted their tactics. Random movements no longer confused them as much as before. Jake tried to sit up as Captain Zorn entered the medical bay. The Zephyrian officer's face was grim, and his uniform showed signs of the recent fighting. "How bad is it?" Jake asked. "Bad," Zorn replied. "They hit Earth's defense station 6 hours ago. Your homeworld is under siege. They also attacked the Zephyrian capital system. Both our species are fighting for survival." Jake felt his heart sink. "What about the combined fleet strategy we discussed?" "Commander Vex Kane is implementing it now." "But we need you, Martinez. Your tactical knowledge is the only thing that has worked against these machines." The doors to the medical bay opened and Lyra rushed in. Jake's heart leaped at the sight of her. She looked exactly as beautiful as he remembered, but her green eyes were filled with worry. "Jake," she said, taking his hand, "I heard you were injured." "I'm fine," Jake lied, squeezing her hand. What are you doing here? My father assigned me to the technical division working on quantum communication arrays. We're trying to coordinate attacks across multiple star systems at the same time. Jake's mind immediately grasped the importance of this. Simultaneous attacks that could work. The Void Collective's advantage is their coordination. If we can attack all their forces at once, they can't reinforce each other. But the technical challenges are enormous, Lyra said. We need perfect timing across dozens of star systems. One mistake and the whole plan fails. Then we better not make any mistakes, Jake said, forcing himself to stand up despite the pain. In his head, over the next several hours, Jake worked with Lyra and the technical team to refine the battle plan. The strategy was complex beyond anything either species had ever attempted. Human and Zephyrian fleets would attack Void Collective forces in 12 different star systems at exactly the same moment. The plan required splitting their forces. Something that went against every principle of military strategy. But Jake realized it was their only chance. The Void Collective was too strong to defeat in a single massive battle. "This is insane," Admiral Carter said when Jake explained the plan over the quantum communication link. "We're dividing our forces against a superior enemy." "It's insane if you think about it like a normal war," Jake replied. "But this isn't a normal war. We're fighting machines that think logically. They expect us to mass our forces for a decisive battle. They won't expect us to split up and attack everywhere at once." Commander Vex Kane appeared on the holographic display. The Supreme Commander looked older than Jake remembered, the stress of the war showing on his face. "Martinez, my advisors tell me this plan has less than a 30% chance of success," Kane said. "That's better odds than we have if we keep fighting the way we've been fighting," Jake replied. "Commander, your daughter has designed communication systems that can coordinate our attacks perfectly. Admiral Carter's pilots know how to fly unpredictably. Your soldiers know how to fight with honor and courage. If we combine all our strengths, we can win this." Vex Kane was quiet for a long moment. "Very well, but want you in command of the overall tactical coordination. Both human and Zephyrian forces will follow your orders." Jake felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. Millions of lives depended on the decisions he would make in the next few hours. The battle began at exactly 1,400 hours Galactic Standard Time. Across 12 star systems, human and Zephyrian ships emerged from hyperspace and began their attacks on Void Collective forces. Jake stood on the bridge of the Sovereign's Edge, his damaged neural implants allowing him to monitor all 12 battles simultaneously. Data streams flowed through his consciousness as he tracked the progress of hundreds of ships across vast distances. "Beta Sector is encountering heavy resistance," reported Lieutenant Kane. "The enemy has more ships there than expected." "Gamma Sector reports successful breakthrough of enemy defensive lines," came another report. Jake processed the information and began adjusting tactics in real time. When one sector faced too much resistance, he ordered ships from successful sectors to provide support through quantum-linked coordination. "Jake," Lyra said from her position at the communication console, "the quantum links are holding steady. All sectors are maintaining coordination." The battle raged for 3 hours. The Void Collective forces fought with their characteristic precision, but for the first time, they seemed confused by the scope of the attack. Their AI systems had been designed to coordinate massive fleets, not respond to simultaneous threats. Across multiple star systems, Alpha Sector has broken through to the enemy command ship, Admiral Carter reported. "But they're taking heavy casualties." Jake studied the tactical display. The Alpha Sector attack was crucial because it targeted what appeared to be the central control node for the entire Void Collective fleet. "All sectors implement Chaos Protocol," Jake ordered. "Chaos Protocol?" Zorn asked. "Every ship, every pilot, start doing random things. Change course for no reason. Fire at targets that don't make sense. Sing songs over the radio. Make the AI systems think we've all gone crazy." It sounded insane, but Jake had learned that sometimes insanity was the most logical response to a Logical enemy, across 12 star systems, human and Zephyrian pilots began implementing the Chaos Protocol. Ships flew in spirals for no tactical reason. Weapons fired at empty space. Radio channels filled with random chatter, music, and even poetry. The effect on the Void Collective was immediate and devastating. Their AI systems, designed to predict rational behavior, couldn't process the seemingly random actions of their enemies. Coordination between Void Collective ships began to break down as their computers tried to analyze patterns that didn't exist. "It's working," Lyra shouted. "Their response times are slowing down. The AI systems are overloading trying to process all the random data." "Alpha Sector, push for the command ship now," Jake ordered. "All other sectors maintain Chaos Protocol. And support Alpha." The final assault on the Void Collective command ship was unlike anything in military history. Human and Zephyrian vessels flew in impossible formations, firing at seemingly random targets while coordinating through quantum links to deliver precise strikes. The command ship, a massive structure the size of a small moon, finally began to crack under the combined assault. When it exploded, the effect rippled across all 12 battle zones. Void Collective ships suddenly stopped moving, their AI systems cut off from central coordination. "All enemy ships have stopped," reported Captain Zorn in amazement. "They're just drifting in space." Jake collapsed into a chair, exhausted. The neural implants in his head sparked with overload, but he had done it. The combined human Zephyrian fleet had defeated the Void Collective in the weeks that followed. Jake spent most of his time in medical treatment while technicians worked to repair his damaged neural implants. Lyra stayed by his side, and for the first time, they could be together without hiding their relationship. "The Council has approved the formation of a permanent human-Zephyrian alliance," Lyra told him one morning. "My father wants you to help. Design the Joint Military Academy." "What about us?" Jake asked. "Are we still breaking cultural laws?" Lyra smiled and kissed him gently. "After what you did, I think my father is willing to make some exceptions to our cultural laws." Commander Vex Kane visited Jake a few days later. The Supreme Commander looked different now, less stern and more thoughtful. "Martinez, the Zephyrian. High Council has voted to make you an honorary citizen of our empire," Vex Kane said. "More importantly, you have proven that humans and Zephyrians are stronger together than apart." "Thank you, sir," Jake replied. "What happens now?" "Now we build something new. A joint colony where both our species can live and work together. My daughter tells me you would like to help design it." Jake looked at Lyra, who was beaming with excitement. "I can't think of anything I'd rather do." 6 months later, Jake stood on the observation deck of Haven Station, the first joint human-Zephyrian colony. Through the transparent aluminum windows, he could see ships from both worlds docking together, their crews working side by side. Lyra joined him at the window, slipping her hand into his. "Do you ever miss Earth?" she asked. "Sometimes," Jake admitted, "but this feels like home now." In the distance, young human and Zephyrian children played together in the station's recreational areas, learning each other's languages and customs. Jake had started teaching military history to mixed classes of cadets from both species, while Lyra worked on developing new technologies that combined human creativity with Zephyrian engineering. "You know," Lyra said, "when I first met you on Nexus Prime, I never imagined we would end up here." Jake smiled and pulled her closer. "I fell for a hot alien girl, and her dad made me join the Alien Army. But it turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to me."